All right guys, so we're gonna show you, we've set up probably about 70 or 80 times on this trip and have never filmed it. So we're gonna kind of show you a quick step-by-step of what we have done 70 or 80 times on this trip. So the first thing we do when we pull into the sites, we get lined up end to end, make sure we're not sticking out too far. And then we have to check we've got a bubble level on the pin box, you can kind of see right there. But we just have to make sure that that's close. If it's not close, we can stack boards under the tires. That's our side-to-side level. So we got to make sure that that's good first off. And it's off a little. We might actually get a board under the tire over here. So let's do that real quick.
Are we getting a board under?
We travel with two of these 2x8s. We've had to use both a couple times, not very often. Usually it's pretty level, but you can watch here.
I go. Back up a little bit. Stop.
All right, so our bubble level looks much better now. So now we're gonna chalk and block. So what we have, we've got 4 of these, which are just 6x6s is what I use to put under the pads. 2 pads in the front, 2 pads in the back. So we drop this a little bit, make sure the pin's set, and make sure this is underneath here where it should be. You know, we've got our wheel chalk, so we've got our block for the back pad. Our front landing gear. So we do that, we've got auto level on this camper. So what we do is just turn that on. We're going to hit front, drop the front landing gear so we can at least get unhitched from the truck. We just take just a little weight off the truck, and then we've got to release the Kingpin so we can pull out from underneath of it. So if you can see up in here, then we can just, if it won't release, then we're in a bind. So we either need to probably just try to back up a little just to release the bind that it's in. See if that did it. There we go. That released. So now that holds the Kingpin. The jaw's open, so the Kingpin can pull out. So we'll unplug. We'll raise it up just a little bit more. And now I can pull the truck out. Now we're separated from the truck. So now what we can do is come in here. This is the beautiful thing about this. Like I said earlier, it's got auto level. So we can just hit the auto level button right here and it's going to auto level. So now while the camper does its thing, we can move on setting other things up. So we got the power cords first thing laying in there. So we're going to get that set up here first. We are 50 amp service on this camper because we have 2 air conditioners. It plugs in right here in the back. So we'll hook that up. This thing's a little finicky. There we go. And then we'll come back to our power box. This is our surge protector, kind of surge and circuit protector here. Just protects us for power surges and under power situations, which you could find at campgrounds. So we've got a 30 amp plug and a 50 amp plug. We use the 50 again because we have 2 air conditioners. Some smaller campers, if they only have 1 air conditioner, probably have a 30 amp cord. So we plug in, We turn our breaker on. We check and make sure we've got green and blue lights, nothing red, so we're good. We got no open neutrals, open grounds, anything like that. That's just weather protection there. So we're hooked up on electrical, so we're gonna move on to water. I use this 0G hose. I really like this thing because it doesn't really kink. It's easy to coil up and put away. Traditional hoses, if they're super cold, they're hard to coil back up and put them away. So this thing really works well. So here's our, oh, this whole thing lifts up. All right, so here's our water hookup. And what we have to have is a pressure regulator. And that's because RVs, now newer ones not so much, but most RVs, they can only handle so much water pressure. And if you're at an RV park, you have no idea what you're gonna get, what's gonna be coming out of this tap. So we use this, and it's like 45 or 55 pounds, something like that. But that way I always know exactly what's coming into the camper. I don't ever have to wonder what the campground's giving me. So we set that on, and I use a Y connector. I started using that a couple months ago. And that way, if I need water or a hose for anything, I don't have to disconnect my main off the camper. I can just tie a hose in here, and I can use if I need to spray something down or whatever I need to do. It kind of gives me 2 ports, which is kind of nice. So we'll hook up our hose on this side of the regulator. And then on this end, before we go into the camper, we're going to put our filter, just to kind of filter the water. Again, we have no idea what's coming out of that tap, coming from the campground. And so that, we're going to drink some, brush our teeth, cook with it, those kinds of things. So we've got this inline filter. It's probably not awesome, probably not terrible. We haven't died yet, so it must be doing an okay job. So that thread's on there. And then I've got the connection here on the other end. And then I've got these quick connects that I use. And I'll show you, those just kind of makes it easier to hook up. We want to flush this out. Okay. So we will just make sure there's no cruddy looking water coming out of there. Alright, hook up our water line in the wet bay. What in the world is going on? There we go. Okay. Turn that on, turn our water heater back on, and coil the hose up underneath the camper, all nice and neat like so. Alright, so now we're hooked up, we got water. So now Anna's favorite part, we're going to do the stinky slinky. Got to be done. I keep my sewer lines in a tote. Got 3 10-foot sections. I have had to actually use all 3 a couple of times. Usually I only need 1. So we'll put our anti-stinky slinky gloves on. And our sewer hookup is right over here. It's usually going to be either a 3-inch or a 4-inch stub out. This one's 4-inch, most of them are 4. But we can accommodate either with our adapter, so we can do 4-inch or 3-inch. So we're good either way. So we just take the cap off. Our adapter goes here. Threads in here, a couple of threads like that. So these have caps on either end, obviously, to keep any residue in there. So this just like a bayonet fitting, just hooks into there, and then we just take the other end, stretch it out. You can see how it's kind of corrugated, so it just stretches, and it locks in on this end, and 1 10-foot section was plenty, so we're good there. And then we'll put these underneath of it, just to make sure it's got downward draft for when we're ready to dump when we leave. This just lays up in here, like so, and we're good to go. And we've got a shut-off valve right here at the end of the line. Now each individual, because we have 2 gray and 1 black tank, they all have their own. There's a gray tank pole right here. but I've found that sometimes you'll get residual after traveling that will sit here against the cap. So when you would take the cap off, you'd get a little dump out. So now that we have the shutoff right here at the end of the line, if anything is in the back side of this, I can hook this up before I open this, and then we're good to go. So we got our sewer hooked up, we're leveled, the camper leveled while we were hooking up electric, water, and sewer. Vicky's inside putting slides out, and we'll be eating dinner here before too long.
So while Scott's outside setting everything up, I come in here and I get everything inside set up. So we have 4 slides, and I have to go through and open each of the 4 slides. Our bedroom, Anna's room, the kitchen, and the sofa are each on a slide. So I go through and open all of those. Once I'm in here, I go through and see if there's anything that has jiggled loose or coming. Sometimes one of the cushions is down or whatever. Depends if we were going through Colorado or not. If we went through Colorado, we have a lot that we've got to do. Other than that, I just have my dish detergent's almost gone. Just a few things that get set out here. I have all of my kitchen utensils. Everything is just a matter of getting it out of its safe place and setting it out on the counter. I need to clean that. So once we do that, the inside's ready to go.
Perfect. One more thing we got to do up here on this panel is get water heater turned on so we have hot water, which is really simple on this panel. Just water heater, and if we're plugged into shore power, we'll run electric, but we can run gas, electric, or both. You can run both, just regens really quick if someone's taking a shower and you want to follow them up. But normal circumstances, when we're plugged into shore power, we'll just be on electric. So we've got that set up, and we might turn the air conditioners on, although we'll probably just open a bunch of windows since it's nice here and it's not 100 degrees like it has been.
Yes,
so there,
68 degrees today.
68 degrees. So there you go. We're just going to open some windows and let some fresh air in. But you can see, even though it's a 40-foot fifth wheel with 4 slides, sets up in 10 to 15 minutes. So here's another pro tip, is a yardstick, and what I use that for is these edge seals on each side of each slide. When you put it out, they don't always fold out nicely like that. So let's go over here, and we always check them, especially if it's going to rain. Yeah, you can see, okay, this one right here, you can see how it's kind of, it didn't flip all the way out when the slide came out. So I can run the yardstick in there higher than I can reach and just flip that out. Boom, just like that. So yeah, this one too. Get that in there like that and just kind of work it out all the way up. So they don't always, but every now and again. So I try to remember when we get set up somewhere to make sure I check them, especially if I know it's going to rain. If you know absolutely it's not going to rain, it's probably not a huge deal. But yeah, that side's good there. So it's always a good thing to check, and the yardstick works awesome for flipping those back out. So there you go.